Scarlett Brooks' first thought when she opened her eyes was, "When did my mattress get so soft?" Her second thought when she saw a man in athletic clothes doing push-ups in the middle of the room was, "Oh no, oh no, oh no, ow!" Scarlett screamed, wrapping herself in the comforter like a human burrito. The man stopped mid-push-up number 47, she had counted instinctively, and looked at her with one raised eyebrow, messy blonde hair, a defined athletic build, and an expression that oscillated between amusement and irritation. "Good morning, Goldilocks," he said, standing up gracefully. "Sleep well in my bed?" "I'm not Goldilocks," Scarlett yelled, still wrapped in the comforter. "And this isn't your bed. I mean, it shouldn't be—" "Wait." She looked around frantically. "Where's my pink suitcase? The one with unicorn stickers? It's over there." He pointed to the corner of the room where her hot pink suitcase was leaning against the wall as if nothing had happened. Scarlett blinked, then blinked again. Her suitcase was there. Her clothes were scattered on the floor. Her phone was on the nightstand. There was just one tiny problem. This definitely wasn't the room she had booked. "Wait a minute." She pointed an accusing finger at him. "You're in the wrong room. I booked 2047. "And I've been living in penthouse 4027, he replied calmly, grabbing a towel, "for exactly 3 years. Scarlett felt the blood drain from her face. 4027? But I... She grabbed the key card from the table. 4027, not 2047. "Oh, shoot. Oh, yes." He crossed his arms. "You arrived here yesterday at 2 in the morning singing 'I Will Survive' in Spanish, said you had conquered the corporate world, and collapsed on my bed like you owned the place." "I was celebrating," Scarlett defended herself. Memories, slowly coming back. "I got the biggest contract of my career as a graphic designer, and I might have had a little bit of champagne." "A little bit?" He laughed. "You drank so much that when I tried to explain you were in the wrong room, you offered me $50 to be your fake boyfriend because you were tired of being the only single person at all family events." Scarlett buried her face in her hands. "Please tell me I didn't do that." "You did. And when I refused, you raised it to 100. Stop. 200? I said stop. And when it reached 500, you fell asleep mid-sentence." Scarlett wanted the earth to open up and swallow her. "I'm a horrible person. I invaded your home, offered bribes, and drooled on your pillow. Actually, you didn't drool, but you snored. A lot." "I don't snore." "You do, like a possessed teddy bear." Scarlett glared at him. "You're cruel. And you're a trespasser." He smiled, and she noticed he had a dimple on his chin. An annoyingly charming dimple. "But an entertaining trespasser." "Right, sorry for the invasion. I'll grab my things and—" His phone rang, interrupting her strategic escape. He looked at the screen, and his expression changed completely. "Darn," he answered. "Hi, Mom. No, I didn't see the— What do you mean on page 6? Pause. "Mom, wait!" But she had already hung up. "Problem?" Scarlett asked, curious despite herself. He was frantically typing on his phone. "You won't believe this." He showed her the screen. It was a blurry photo of 2 people entering the building's elevator. The headline read, "Theo Morrison, Tech. Fortune heir finally got a girlfriend?" "Who's Theo Morrison?" Scarlett asked, frowning. "I'm Theo Morrison. And who's the girl in the photo?" "You." Scarlett snatched the phone from his hand. The photo was dark and pixelated, but you could see a woman with brown hair entering the elevator with a blonde man. But that was last night. When I got here. And apparently someone photographed us." Theo ran his hand through his hair. "My mom is already planning the wedding." "Your mom plans fast." "You don't know my mom." The phone rang again. This time he didn't even look at the name. Hello, Mom. No, I'm not hiding a girlfriend. Yes, I know you want grandchildren. No, I won't introduce her to you today because— He looked at Scarlett with a desperate expression. Because she's traveling? Scarlett could hear his mother's voice through the phone, speaking rapidly in excited English, mixed with what sounded like Italian. Mom, please, just give me 5 minutes to— The phone went silent. She hung up, and she's coming here. Now. What do you mean, coming? Here? She lives in the apartment downstairs. Theo started pacing in circles. She has a key. She's going to come up here in— He looked at his watch. Exactly 8 minutes to meet my supposed girlfriend. Scarlett began to understand the gravity of the situation. What if you explain it was a misunderstanding? My mom has had 3 heart attacks in the last 2 years. The doctor said any emotional shock could be dangerous. Theo stared at her with pleading eyes. She's so happy thinking I finally found someone. No. Please? Absolutely not. I'll pay you. With what money? You haven't even told me what you do for a living. I invented an app that everyone uses. You know that one. That translates restaurant menus in real time using your phone's camera? Scarlett's eyes widened. Menu Lens? You created Menu Lens? Among other things, yes. I use that app religiously. It saved my life in Paris. Then you owe me one. Scarlett bit her lip. On one hand, it was completely insane. On the other, she really did owe one to the creator of Menu Lens. How long? Just until she leaves. An hour, tops. And then? Then we'll make up that you had to travel for work and figure out how to end everything without hurting her. Scarlett looked at her reflection in the mirror. Messy hair, no makeup, wearing an oversized t-shirt that said, I'm not arguing. I'm explaining why I'm right. I look terrible. You look perfect. My mom will love that you're natural. I don't even know your full name. Theodore James Morrison. Theo to friends. 28 years old, MIT graduate, vegetarian, allergic to cats, and I have an irrational fear of clowns. Scarlett Brooks, 27 years old, freelance graphic designer, coffee addict, and I have an unhealthy obsession with true crime documentaries. Perfect. We have chemistry. The elevator went ding in the hallway. She's here, Theo whispered, panicking. Theo, darling, a melodious voice echoed from the corridor. Where's this mysterious girlfriend? Scarlett and Theo looked at each other. It was now or never. Take a deep breath, Scarlett murmured, running her hand through her hair. Let's pretend we're madly in love. Can I kiss you if necessary? If you try, I'll kick you. Fair enough. There was a knock on the door. Theo, open this door right now. Theo looked at Scarlett one last time. Ready to meet the family? Scarlett took a deep breath. Let's go, boyfriend. The sound of keys jingling in the hallway made both Scarlett and Theo freeze like deer caught in headlights. Quick, Theo whispered urgently. Sit on the couch and look. Coupley. What does coupley even mean? Scarlett hissed back, but she was already scrambling toward the living room. I don't know. Hold my hand or something. They had barely managed to plop down on the leather sofa when the door burst open, revealing what could only be described as a human hurricane in designer clothes. Teodoro! The woman who entered was tiny but mighty, maybe 5 feet tall in her Louboutin heels, with perfectly styled silver hair, enormous sunglasses perched on her head, and enough jewelry to fund a small country. She moved with the energy of someone half her age and the authority of someone who had never heard the word no in her entire life. Mama! Theo stood up, and Scarlett noticed his voice had gone up an octave. You're early. Early? Early? Mrs. Morrison removed her sunglasses with dramatic flair. My son finally brings home a woman after 28 years of breaking his poor mother's heart. And you think I would be late? Her accent was a delightful mixture of New York Italian and old Hollywood glamour. She spoke with her hands as much as her voice, gesturing wildly as she surveyed the apartment. "And where is she? This mysterious girl who has captured my Theodore's heart?" Theo glanced at Scarlett, who was still sitting on the couch looking like she wanted to disappear into the cushions. "Mama, I'd like you to meet Madonna Maya!" Mrs. Morrison gasped, clutching her chest dramatically. "She's beautiful!" Before Scarlett could react, she found herself being pulled up from the couch and enveloped in a cloud of expensive perfume and maternal energy. "Look at this face! Look at these eyes! Theodore, she looks like a young Sophia Loren!" Mrs. Morrison held Scarlett's face between her hands, examining her like a precious artifact. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Scarlett," she managed, overwhelmed by the woman's intensity. "Scarlett, like Scarlett O'Hara, a strong name for a strong woman." Mrs. Morrison beamed. "I am Francesca Morrison, but you call me Nonna Fran, okay? We are family now." "Oh, we're not—" Scarlett started, but Theo quickly interrupted. "Scarlett was just about to tell you about her work, weren't you, honey?" He gave her a meaningful look. Yes. I'm a graphic designer. I design graphics." Scarlett mentally kicked herself for the eloquent explanation. "A designer. An artist. Theodore, you found an artist." Nonna Fran clapped her hands together. "This is perfect. Creative souls. They understand passion." She grabbed Scarlett's hand and dragged her toward the kitchen. "Come, we make coffee. We talk. Theodore, you stay there and look handsome." "But Mama—" "No buts. The women, we need to get acquainted." In the kitchen, Nonna Fran began what could only be described as an Olympic-level coffee-making routine, complete with commentary. "So, Scarlett, tell me everything. How did you meet my Theodore? Was it romantic? Did he sweep you off your feet? That boy, he gets all tongue-tied around pretty girls, so I hope you made the first move." Scarlett glanced toward the living room where Theo was pretending to read a magazine, but clearly straining to hear every word. "Well, it was unexpected," Scarlett said carefully. "I sort of crashed into his life." "Ah, love at first sight. I knew it." Nonna Fran nodded knowingly. "The same thing happened with me and Theodore's grandfather. I was working at my family's restaurant in Little Italy, and he was this fancy businessman who got lost looking for a meeting. He came in asking for directions, took one look at me and forgot where he was supposed to go." She handed Scarlett a tiny cup of espresso that looked strong enough to power a small vehicle. 57 years we were married. 57 years of him still getting lost just to come see me." Her eyes misted over slightly. "He passed 2 years ago." "I'm so sorry," Scarlett said softly, meaning it. "Thank you, sweetheart. But you know what kept me going? Knowing that someday Theodore would find someone to love the way his nonno loved me." She squeezed Scarlett's hand. "And now here you are." The guilt hit Scarlett like a ton of bricks. This sweet woman was so happy, so hopeful, and here they were lying to her about everything. "Mrs. Morrison—" "Nonna Fran." "Nonna Fran, I need to tell you something about Theo and me." "Mama!" Theo appeared in the kitchen doorway looking panicked. "Your phone's been ringing. I think it's Aunt Rosa." "Rosa? What does she want now?" Nonna Fran grabbed her phone from her purse. "Pronto? Rosa. What? You saw the picture where?" She put the phone on speaker, and suddenly the kitchen was filled with rapid-fire Italian mixed with heavily accented English. "Francesca, I saw the photo in the newspaper. You're Theodore with a girl. When is the wedding? Have you met her? Is she Italian? Does she cook?" "Rosa, slow down." "Yes, I'm meeting her right now. She's beautiful, she's an artist, and—" "Put her on the phone. I want to talk to her." Before Scarlett could protest, the phone was thrust into her hands. "Hello?" she said weakly. "Theodore's girlfriend. I am Rosa, Francesca's sister. Tell me everything. Are you pregnant? When's the wedding? Do you want a big ceremony or small?" I know a guy who knows a guy who can get you flowers wholesale. I, we, it's still early, Scarlett stammered. Early? Early? At your age, there's no time for early. You need to lock this down. Theodore is a good boy, but men, they get scared. You need to… Nonna Fran grabbed the phone back. Rosa, basta. You're scaring the poor girl. She hung up and turned to Scarlett with an apologetic smile. I'm sorry, sweetheart. My sister, she's very enthusiastic about family matters. Theo's phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. What's happening? Scarlett asked. Theo looked at his screen with growing horror. The photo. It's everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Tech mogul's mystery romance. Is this Theodore Morrison's secret wife? There are already 15 articles online. Wife? Nonna Fran's voice went up several decibels. You're already married? No, we're not married, Scarlett said quickly. Yet, Theo added, then immediately looked like he regretted it. Yet. Nonna Fran clasped her hands together. Oh, this is wonderful. A spring wedding, or maybe summer. We need to start planning immediately. Scarlett felt the room spinning. Mrs. Morrison, I think there's been a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding is why my son hasn't proposed yet. Nonna Fran turned to Theo with a stern expression. Theodore James Morrison, what are you waiting for? This girl is perfect. She's beautiful. She's talented. And look at her hands. Perfect for making pasta. Mama, we've only been dating for… How long? Nonna Fran demanded. Theo and Scarlett looked at each other in panic. 6 months, Theo said at the same time Scarlett said, 3 weeks. Nonna Fran's eyes narrowed. Which is it? 6 months officially, Scarlett said quickly. But we were friends for 3 weeks before that. Right, honey? Exactly. Friends first. Very friendly friends. Nonna Fran studied them both with the sharp eyes of a woman who had raised 5 children and run a successful restaurant. Show me how you kiss. What? Both Theo and Scarlett yelped. You heard me. If you've been together 6 months, you should be comfortable kissing in front of his mother. Unless, she gasped dramatically, unless this is all fake. The kitchen went dead silent except for the ticking of the antique clock on the wall. Fake? Theo laughed nervously. Why would it be fake? Because in all my 72 years I have never seen 2 people in love act so awkward around each other. Nonna Fran crossed her arms. So either you kiss her right now, or you tell me the truth. Scarlett looked at Theo. Theo looked at Scarlett. They both looked at Nonna Fran, who was tapping her foot impatiently. Well? She demanded. I'm waiting. Theo stepped closer to Scarlett. Is this okay? He whispered. She nodded, her heart beating so fast she was sure everyone could hear it. He cupped her face gently, just like he probably would if they were really together, and leaned in. The kiss was soft, sweet, and lasted exactly 3 seconds before they pulled apart. It was also, much to Scarlett's surprise, not terrible at all. Better, Nonna Fran nodded approvingly. But next time, more passion. You're young. Where's the fire? Theo's phone rang, saving them from having to demonstrate more fire. It's my assistant, he said, looking at the screen. The press conference about the Millionaire's expansion is in 2 hours, and apparently every reporter is going to ask about my mystery girlfriend. Press conference? Scarlett felt the panic rising again. Don't worry, Theo said quickly. You don't have to come. I'll just say you're… She's coming, Nonna Fran interrupted. If you're going to face the wolves, you face them together. That's what couples, do. But I don't have anything to wear to a press conference. Nonsense. Nonna Fran waved her hand dismissively. We go shopping. I know exactly what you need. And before either Theo or Scarlett could protest, they found themselves being herded toward the door by a tiny Italian woman with the determination of a general leading troops into battle. "This is going to be a disaster," Scarlett whispered to Theo as they followed his mother to the elevator. "The shopping or the press conference?" "Everything." But as they watched Nonna Fran excitedly call her sister to announce their shopping trip, Scarlett couldn't help but smile. Maybe it would be a disaster, but at least it would be an entertaining one. If Scarlett thought Nonna Fran was intense in a kitchen, it was nothing compared to watching her operate in her natural habitat, Fifth Avenue boutiques. "No, no, no!" Nonna Fran waved dismissively at the perfectly lovely blue dress the sales associate had suggested. "This is for a woman who wants to blend into the wallpaper. My Theodore's girlfriend needs to make a statement." They were in their fourth store in 2 hours, and Scarlett was beginning to understand why hurricanes were named after people. Nonna Fran had swept through Bergdorf Goodman, Saks, and 2 smaller boutiques like a tiny, well-dressed tornado, leaving bewildered sales staff and rejected clothing in her wake. "Mrs. Morrison?" The current sales associate tried again. "It's Nonna Fran, and bring me that red one. The one that says, 'I am confident, I am beautiful, and I am not intimidated by vultures disguised as reporters.'" Theo sat in a corner chair looking like he'd rather be anywhere else, occasionally glancing at his phone where notifications kept popping up. "Mama, maybe we should just pick something simple." "Simple?" Nonna Fran turned to her son, with the expression of someone who'd been personally insulted. "Theodore, your girlfriend is about to face the New York media. Simple is for grocery shopping, not for making sure every woman in America knows you're taken." Scarlett emerged from the dressing room in the 5th dress of the day, a sleek black number that actually looked pretty good on her. "Better." Nonna Fran circled her like a fashion vulture. "But something's missing." She snapped her fingers at the sales associate. "Jewelry, and shoes, and a bag. She needs the full armor." "Armor?" Scarlett asked weakly. "Sweetheart, you're about to walk into a room full of people whose job it is to find flaws. You need to shine so bright they go blind before they can ask stupid questions." 20 minutes later, Scarlett found herself wearing a designer outfit that probably cost more than her rent, feeling like she was playing dress-up in someone else's life. "Perfect!" Nonna Fran clapped her hands. "Now, let's talk strategy." "Strategy?" Theo looked up from his phone with alarm. "Of course strategy. You think I raised 5 successful children without knowing how to handle difficult people?" She sat down and pulled out a small notebook. "First rule, never answer the question they ask. Answer the question you want to answer." She flipped through pages covered in notes written in a mixture of English and Italian. For example, if they ask, "How long have you been dating?" you don't say 6 months or whatever story you're telling today. You say, "Theodore and I believe that good relationships grow naturally over time." Scarlett stared at the notebook. "Do you always carry press strategy notes?" "Honey, I've been handling reporters since before you were born. My late husband's restaurant was featured in every food magazine in the city. Trust me, I know these tricks." Theo's phone buzzed again. "The press conference moved up. We need to be there in 30 minutes. 30 minutes? Scarlett felt the panic rising. "I need more time to prepare. What if they ask about my family? My background? What if someone recognizes me from last night's party and knows I was single?" "Breathe," Nonna Fran commanded, grabbing Scarlett's hands. "Look at me. In my family, we have a saying, 'La familia è tutto.' Family is everything. Today you are family. We protect each other." She opened her purse and pulled out a small silver charm bracelet. "This belonged to my mother, and her mother before that. Every woman who wears it has the strength of all the women who came before." She fastened it around Scarlett's wrist. "Today, you carry that strength." Scarlett looked down at the delicate bracelet, feeling the weight of history and unexpected responsibility. "I can't take this. What if I lose it? What if you stop worrying about what if and start thinking about what now? Nonna Fran smiled. Besides, it's not a gift. It's a loan. You give it back when you marry my son for real. Mama, Theo protested. What? I see how you look at her when you think no one's watching. And Scarlett, I see how you forget to be nervous when he's talking. You think I'm blind? Before either of them could respond, Nonna Fran's phone rang with a ringtone that sounded suspiciously like an Italian opera. Rosa, what now? What? What? You're where? She listened for a moment, her expression shifting from annoyed to horrified. We'll be right there. She hung up and turned to them with a grim expression. Change of plans. The press conference isn't happening at your office. What do you mean? Theo asked. Someone leaked the location of the original press conference. There are 200 reporters camped outside your building, plus about 50 protesters. Protesters? Scarlett squeaked. What are they protesting? Apparently there's a rumor online that Theodore is only dating you as a publicity stunt for the Millionaire expansion. Nonna Fran shook her head. Some bloggers started a hashtag called #SheFakeRelationshipFakeApp. Theo and Scarlett looked at each other with barely concealed panic. How accurate are rumors usually? Scarlett asked weakly. In this case, way too accurate, Theo muttered. But here's the good news, Nonna Fran continued. Your assistant moved the press conference to the Carlisle Hotel. Private room, controlled access, much more civilized. And the bad news? Rosa is already there, along with Aunt Maria, Uncle Sal, and about 15 other family members who decided this was too exciting to miss. Theo put his head in his hands. My entire family is going to watch us lie to the press. Not lie, Nonna Fran corrected. Perform. There's a difference. As they climbed into the taxi, Scarlett found herself sitting between Theo and his mother, feeling like she was being swept along by forces completely beyond her control. Quick, Nonna Fran said, pulling out her notebook again. Final coaching session. Theo, put your arm around her. Scarlett, lean into him like you've done it 1,000 times. Awkwardly, they arranged themselves according to her instructions. Better. Now, Scarlett, tell me 3 things you genuinely like about Theodore. Right now? Scarlett felt her face heating up. Right now? The press will ask how you know he's the one. You need real answers, not fake ones. Scarlett looked at Theo, who was studiously avoiding eye contact. Well, he's considerate. When I was drunk and confused last night, he didn't take advantage or just throw me out. He made sure I was safe. Theo glanced at her with surprise. And he's passionate about his work. The Menu Lens app genuinely helps people, and you can tell he cares about making a difference, not just making money. And? Nonna Fran prompted. Scarlett hesitated, then said quietly, and he loves his family. Even when his mother is driving him crazy, you can tell he'd do anything for her. The taxi went quiet except for the sound of New York traffic. See? Nonna Fran said softly. Not so hard to find real things, is it? Theo cleared his throat. My turn. 3 things about Scarlett. Theodore? She's brave, he said, cutting off his mother's protest. She could have run away this morning, but she stayed to help someone she'd just met. And she's honest. Even in this crazy situation, she keeps trying to tell the truth. And he looked at Scarlett directly, for the first time all day. She makes everything more interesting. The taxi pulled up to the Carlisle Hotel, where they could see a small crowd of reporters and camera crews waiting outside. Showtime, Nonna Fran announced, checking her lipstick in a compact mirror. Remember, shoulders back, smile genuine, and if anyone asks a question you don't like, just look confused and let Theodore handle it. As they climbed out of the taxi, Scarlett felt the weight of the borrowed bracelet on her wrist and the warmth of Theo's hand as he helped her out. You ready for this? He asked quietly. Scarlett looked at the reporters, then at Nonna Fran, who was already charming a photographer, then back at Theo. Ask me again in an hour. But as they walked toward the hotel entrance, cameras flashing, and reporters calling out questions, Scarlett realized something unexpected. She wasn't just pretending to be brave anymore. Maybe she actually was. The private conference room at the Carlisle Hotel looked like a small war zone. Reporters clustered around tables covered with recording devices, cameras, and enough coffee cups to caffeinate a small army. At the front of the room, a makeshift stage had been set up with 2 chairs and more microphones than Scarlett had ever seen in one place. But what really caught her attention was the corner where the Morrison family had apparently set up camp. "Sweet mother of pearl," Scarlett whispered, staring at what looked like a family reunion crossed with a tailgate party. "How many relatives do you have?" "Too many," Theo muttered, but she could hear the affection in his voice. Aunt Rosa, whom Scarlett recognized from the phone call, was holding court near the coffee station, gesticulating wildly while explaining something to a bemused reporter. Uncle Sal was setting up what appeared to be a professional-grade video camera. Various cousins, siblings, and family friends were scattered throughout the corner, some taking selfies, others engaged in animated conversations in rapid-fire Italian. Theodore, a woman who looked like a younger version of Nonna Fran, rushed over. "I'm your cousin Maria. I flew in from Boston as soon as I saw the news. Where is she? Where's the girl who finally tamed our Theodore?" Before Theo could answer, Scarlett found herself engulfed in another enthusiastic hug. "You're even prettier in person. And so tiny. We need to feed you. Do you eat Italian food? Please tell me you eat Italian food." Yes, I love Italian food," Scarlett managed. "Perfect. Sunday dinner at Nonna's. I'm making my famous lasagna." "Maria, give the girl some space to breathe," Nonna Fran intervened, but she was beaming with pride at the family turnout. Theo's assistant, a harried-looking woman in her 30s, appeared at his elbow. "We need to start in 5 minutes. The tech reporters are getting restless, and someone from page 6 just arrived." "Page 6? Scarlett felt her stomach drop. "The gossip column?" "Don't worry," Theo squeezed her hand. "We stick to the plan. Simple answers, genuine smiles, and if anything goes wrong, I'll handle it." "What could go wrong?" Scarlett asked, then immediately regretted the question as about 15 different disaster scenarios flashed through her mind. "Nothing's going wrong," Nonna Fran announced firmly, appearing beside them with a small makeup compact. "But first, Scarlett, you need a touch-up. The lights will wash you out." As Nonna Fran expertly applied lipstick and powder, Scarlett caught a glimpse of herself in the compact mirror. The woman looking back at her was polished, confident, wearing clothes that cost more than she usually spent in 6 months. She looked like someone who belonged at press conferences. She looked like someone who could actually be Theodore Morrison's girlfriend. "There!" Nonna Fran snapped the compact shut. "Perfect. Now remember what I taught you. Shoulders back, genuine smile, and if you get nervous, just look at Theodore like he's the most fascinating man in the world." "What if I can't pull that off?" Nonna Fran raised an eyebrow. "Sweetheart, you've been looking at him like that since yesterday. I don't think you'll have to try very hard." Before Scarlett could process that comment, Theo's assistant was ushering them toward the front of the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," the assistant announced, "Theodore Morrison, CEO of Morrison Tech Industries, and his girlfriend, Scarlett Brooks." The room erupted in a flurry of camera flashes and shouted questions as they made their way to the 2 chairs. Scarlett could hear fragments over the noise. "How long have you been together? Is this a publicity stunt? What about the rumors of a secret engagement? Are you pregnant?" Theo held up his hand for quiet, and gradually the room settled down. "Thank you all for coming. As you know, we're here today to discuss the exciting expansion of Millionaire into 15 new countries, which will help millions of travelers navigate foreign menus with confidence." A reporter from the front row immediately raised her hand. "Mr. Morrison, while Millionaire is certainly newsworthy, I think everyone here is more interested in your personal life. Can you tell us about your relationship with Ms. Brooks? Theo glanced at Scarlett, and she nodded slightly. Scarlett and I met several months ago, and we've been seeing each other since then. She's an incredibly talented graphic designer, and I'm lucky she puts up with my hectic schedule. Ms. Brooks, another reporter called out, what attracted you to Mr. Morrison? Was it his wealth? His status? Scarlett felt her cheeks burn, but she remembered Nona Fran's coaching. Don't answer the question they ask. Answer the question you want to answer. What attracted me to Theo, she said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded, was his passion for creating things that genuinely help people. When he talks about Millionaires, his face lights up because he knows it's making travel easier for millions of people. That kind of genuine enthusiasm is pretty irresistible. She glanced at Theo and found him looking at her with surprise and something that might have been admiration. Follow-up question, the same reporter pressed. There are rumors online that this relationship is fake, designed to generate positive publicity for the Millionaires expansion. How do you respond to those accusations? The room went dead silent. Scarlett could feel the weight of every camera, every recording device, every pair of eyes focused on them. In the corner, she could see the Morrison family leaning forward, anxiously. Theo reached over and took her hand, his thumb brushing over the antique bracelet on her wrist. I understand why people might be skeptical, he said calmly. In my position, people often question the motives behind personal relationships. But anyone who knows me knows I'm terrible at faking emotions. If this were a publicity stunt, I would have hired a professional actress, not fallen for someone who argues with me about the proper way to load a dishwasher. A few reporters chuckled, and Scarlett felt some of the tension in the room ease. It's true, she added, surprised to find herself playing along naturally. He loads silverware handle down. It's barbaric. Handle up doesn't get them clean. Handle down is how you stab yourself reaching into the dishwasher. More laughter rippled through the room, and Scarlett realized that this felt natural, like they actually were a couple having a familiar argument. So you live together? Asked a reporter from TechCrunch. Theo and Scarlett looked at each other. They hadn't prepared for this question. We're taking things day by day, Scarlett said carefully. But you have been staying at Mr. Morrison's penthouse, correct? The reporter held up a tablet showing security camera footage of them entering the building the night before. Scarlett felt trapped. How could she explain that she'd accidentally invaded his apartment without making the whole relationship sound fake? Scarlett was supposed to stay at a hotel last night, Theo said smoothly. But there was a mix-up with her reservation. So, she stayed with me instead. Sometimes the best things happen when your plans go wrong. He squeezed her hand, and she felt that electric jolt again. Speaking of plans, called out the Page 6 reporter, any wedding plans we should know about? The Morrison family corner exploded into excited murmurs. We're not rushing into anything, Theo said quickly, but Scarlett could see Nona Fran frantically gesturing from the audience. But you're not ruling it out, the reporter pressed. Scarlett looked at Theo, then at Nona Fran's hopeful face, then at the room full of expectant reporters. When you find someone who makes you want to be better than you are, she heard, herself saying, you don't rule anything out. The room went quiet for a moment, and then the Morrison family corner erupted in applause and cheers. Beautiful answer, Uncle Sal called out, still filming everything. Now that's amore, Aunt Rosa added, blowing them kisses. The next 20 minutes passed in a blur of questions about Millionaires, about their relationship, about their plans. Somehow they managed to field everything with what Scarlett hoped looked like natural chemistry. Last question, the assistant announced. A young reporter from a tech blog raised her hand. Ms. Brooks, this morning you were just a regular graphic designer living your life. Tonight, you'll be one of the most Googled women in America. How does that feel? Scarlett considered the question seriously. This morning she'd been broke, hungover, and panicking about rent. Now she was wearing designer clothes, sitting next to a billionaire, and had somehow charmed his entire family. Terrifying, she said honestly, but also kind of amazing. Sometimes life surprises you in the best possible ways. As the press conference ended and reporters began filing out, the Morrison family swarmed the front of the room. "That was perfect," Nonna Fran declared, pulling them both into a group hug. "You were natural. You were charming. You were—" "Trending on Twitter," Theo's assistant interrupted, holding up her phone. "Theo and Scarlett is the #2 trend. In the United States." "#2? Uncle Sal sounded offended. "What's #1? "Something about a celebrity cat," the assistant replied. "A cat?" Aunt Rosa threw her hands up in disgust. "They choose a cat over true love?" As the family continued their good-natured outrage about being upstaged by a feline, Scarlett found herself standing slightly apart, watching the chaos with a mixture of affection and disbelief. "You okay?" Theo appeared beside her, having escaped the family celebration. "I just lied to a room full of reporters and somehow convinced them we're in love," she said quietly. "Your family is planning our wedding. The internet thinks we're adorable, and I'm wearing a bracelet that belongs in a museum. Regrets?" Scarlett looked at him, really looked at him. His hair was slightly messed up from running his hands through it during the press conference. His tie was crooked. There was a small coffee stain on his shirt that somehow made him look more human and less like a billionaire CEO. "Ask me tomorrow," she said. "Why tomorrow?" "Because right now, I'm still processing the fact that I just told the entire world that you make me want to be better than I am." Theo was quiet for a moment. "For what it's worth," he said finally, "that didn't sound like acting to me." Before Scarlett could respond, Nonna Fran was back, brandishing her phone triumphantly. "The reviews are in. Page 6 called you refreshingly authentic. The Times said you were clearly smitten. And Entertainment Tonight wants to do a follow-up interview." "Another interview?" Scarlett felt the panic rising again. "Not today," Theo said quickly. "Today we celebrate surviving our first press conference." "With lunch," Uncle Sal announced. "I made reservations at Patsy's. The whole family. We celebrate." As they were swept along by the enthusiastic Morrison clan toward the hotel exit, Scarlett caught a glimpse of herself in the lobby mirrors. She still looked like someone who belonged in this world. The question was, how long before someone figured out she was just visiting? But as Theo offered her his arm, and Nonna Fran linked arms with her other side, chattering excitedly about lunch plans and family stories she needed to hear, Scarlett realized she wasn't in any hurry to find out. Maybe fake could feel real, at least for a little while longer. Patsy's Italian restaurant had been a Morrison family institution for 3 generations, which explained why they were able to accommodate a party of 18 people with exactly 47 minutes' notice. What it didn't explain was how Uncle Sal had managed to convince the restaurant owner to let him set up professional lighting equipment in the corner booth. "For the family documentary," he explained to a bewildered waiter while adjusting what appeared to be a Hollywood-grade camera setup. "Someday, when Theodore and Scarlett are famous, everyone will want to see where their love story really began." "Uncle Sal," Theo protested, "this isn't where our love story began. We met—" "Details," Sal waved dismissively. "The truth is less important than the narrative. Trust me, I've been documenting family events for 40 years. I know what makes a good television." Scarlett found herself seated between Theo and Cousin Maria, directly across from Nonna Fran, who had somehow produced a leather-bound photo album from the depths of her oversized purse. "Before we eat," Nonna Fran announced, spreading the album open, "Scarlett needs to see Theodore as a bambino. Look at this face." The photo showed a gap-toothed 6-year-old Theo covered head to toe in what appeared to be chocolate cake, grinning at the camera with such pure joy that Scarlett couldn't help but smile. "That was his 6th birthday," Maria explained. He insisted on eating the entire cake by himself because he said sharing would compromise the integrity of the chocolate distribution. Even then, he was thinking like an engineer, added Aunt Rosa, who had somehow materialized beside them, with a plate of antipasto, always analyzing, always optimizing, never just enjoying. I enjoyed plenty, Theo protested, but his ears were turning red. Oh, really? Nonna Fran flipped to another page. Then explain this. The next photo showed 8-year-old Theo at what was clearly a birthday party, sitting alone at a table with a notebook, completely ignoring the other children who were playing games in the background. He was designing an improved party system, Maria translated for Scarlett. Complete, with efficiency charts and optimal cake-to-ice cream ratios. It was a very chaotic party, Theo said defensively. Someone needed to bring order to the chaos. Scarlett studied the photo more carefully. Even as a child, Theo had that same focused expression he got when he talked about his apps. That same intense concentration. But there was something else too. A loneliness that made her chest tighten unexpectedly. He was always the serious one, Nonna Fran said more gently, noticing Scarlett's expression. Even when he was little, he wanted to fix everything, make everything better. Sometimes I worried he forgot to just be a kid. Which is why, Aunt Rosa announced, setting down enough food for a small army. We're so happy he found you. Finally, someone who makes him smile without a spreadsheet. The waiter appeared with what seemed like the entire menu spread across multiple trays. Scarlett counted at least 12 different dishes before giving up. We didn't order all this, she whispered to Theo. You don't order at Patsy's when you're with the Morrison family, he whispered back. You surrender to the experience and hope your stomach can handle it. Mangia, mangia, Uncle Sal called from behind his camera. Eat! This is beautiful! The American girl discovering authentic Italian cuisine. This will be perfect for the montage. What montage? Scarlett asked, but she was distracted by Cousin Maria piling her plate with what looked like the most incredible lasagna she'd ever seen. The montage in the documentary, Maria explained matter-of-factly. Uncle, Sal is already planning the whole thing. Act 1. Theodore's lonely bachelor years. Act 2. You appear and change everything. Act 3. The wedding. There's no wedding, Scarlett and Theo said simultaneously, then looked at each other with alarm. The entire table went silent. Yet, Nonna Fran added firmly, there's no wedding yet. Nonna, Theo began carefully, Scarlett and I are still getting to know each other. We're not rushing into... Rushing? Aunt Rosa laughed so hard she nearly choked on her wine. Theodore, you're 28 years old. Your grandfather proposed to your nonna after knowing her for 6 weeks. 6 weeks, Uncle Sal confirmed, from behind his camera. And look how that turned out. 57 years of happiness. Different times, Theo said weakly. Love is love, Nonna Fran declared. Time is just a number. Scarlett took a large bite of lasagna to avoid having to respond, but apparently the Morrison family considered eating an invitation for more personal questions. So Scarlett, said a cousin whose name she'd already forgotten, tell us about your family. Are they excited about Theodore? Scarlett nearly choked on her food. Her family. She hadn't even thought about her family. Well, she said carefully, it's complicated. My parents are divorced. My mom lives in Portland and my dad is... We don't really talk much. Portland, Maria clapped her hands. How wonderful. A Pacific Northwest girl. That explains the adventurous spirit. Adventurous spirit? Of course. Moving to New York, building your own business, falling in love with our Theodore, despite his terrible habit of organizing everything alphabetically. I don't organize everything alphabetically, Theo protested. Your spice rack says otherwise, Aunt Rosa pointed out. That's just practical. Your sock drawer. Efficiency. Your music collection. There's a system. Scarlett found herself laughing despite the stress of the situation. Watching Theo get ganged up on by his family was somehow both endearing and hilarious. See? Nonna Fran pointed at Scarlett's laughing face. This is what I mean. She thinks he's ridiculous, but she loves him anyway. That's how you know it's real. The word love hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. We haven't... Scarlett started, then stopped, unsure how to finish that sentence without destroying everything. Haven't what? Maria asked innocently. Haven't talked about... Scarlett looked desperately at Theo for help. Haven't talked about moving in together, Theo finished smoothly. We're taking things slowly. Slowly? Uncle Sal lowered his camera with an expression of disgust. You know what slowly gets you? Nothing. You think Romeo took things slowly with Juliet? Romeo and Juliet died, Theo pointed out. Details, Sal waved dismissively. The point is passion, fire. When you know, you know. How did you know? Asked a teenage cousin Scarlett hadn't met yet. When you first saw each other, was it like in the movies? Did time stop? Scarlett and Theo looked at each other across the table. She remembered the moment she'd opened her eyes and seen him doing push-ups. The confusion, the panic, the weird little flutter when he'd smiled at her with that annoyingly charming dimple. It was, she said slowly, definitely not what I expected my morning to look like. She thought I was an intruder, Theo added, his eyes crinkling with amusement. She wrapped herself in my comforter like a burrito and screamed at me. Very romantic, Maria said sarcastically. Actually, it kind of was, Scarlett admitted, surprising herself. Not the screaming part, but he was doing push-ups at 7 in the morning, which should have been annoying, but instead I found myself counting along. And when he could have been angry about a stranger in his bed, he was just kind. The table had gone quiet again, but this time it felt different. Less interrogation, more genuine interest. And then what happened? The teenage cousin prompted. Then, Theo said, looking directly at Scarlett, she offered to pay me to be her fake boyfriend, fell asleep mid-sentence, and I spent the rest of the night wondering what the heck I'd gotten myself into. But you didn't wake her up, Nonna, Fran observed. You didn't call security. You let her sleep. She was... Theo paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. She looked peaceful, and she was mumbling things in her sleep about architectural projects and whether she'd remembered to pay her electric bill. She seemed like she had enough chaos in her life without me adding to it. Scarlett felt something warm and unexpected bloom in her chest. She'd forgotten about the sleep-mumbling thing. Plus, Theo added with a grin, she was wearing a t-shirt that said, I'm not arguing, I'm explaining why I'm right. How could I not be curious about someone who sleeps in argumentative clothing? It's a good shirt, Scarlett protested, laughing. It's a perfect shirt for someone who was about to turn my entire life upside down. The warmth in her chest grew stronger, and Scarlett realized with a start that she was having fun. Real, genuine fun, not the nervous performance she'd been expecting. So when did you know? Aunt Rosa pressed. When did friendship become something more? Another dangerous question. Scarlett and Theo looked at each other again, and she could see the same realization in his eyes. They were venturing into territory where the script ended and real feelings began. I think, Scarlett said carefully, it's still becoming something more. Every day, I discover something new about him that surprises me. Like what? Maria leaned forward eagerly. Like the fact that he genuinely listens when people talk. Not just waiting for his turn to speak, but actually hearing what they're saying, and he remembers details. Not just the big stuff, but little things. Like how I take my coffee, or that I have this weird phobia about butterflies. You're afraid of butterflies? Theo looked at her with surprise. Terrified, Scarlett admitted. They're so unpredictable, All that fluttering around with no apparent purpose. That's the most ridiculous phobia I've ever heard, he said, but his tone was fond rather than mocking. Says the man who's afraid of clowns. Clowns are objectively terrifying. Butterflies are just fluttery. Exactly. Dangerously fluttery. The entire table was laughing now, and Uncle Sal was frantically adjusting his camera to capture it all. This is beautiful, he announced. The playful banter, the genuine affection. You can't fake this kind of chemistry. If only he knew, Scarlett thought. But the weird thing was, it didn't feel fake anymore. The laughter, the easy back and forth, the way Theo's eyes lit up when he looked at her. None of that felt like performance. All right, Nonna Fran said, closing the photo album with a satisfied snap. I've seen enough. Enough what? Theo asked warily. Enough to know that my instincts were right. She reached across the table and patted both their hands. You two are going to be very happy together. Nonna, no arguments. I'm 72 years old. I've been married, I've raised 5 children, and I've seen enough couples to know the difference between infatuation and the real thing. She fixed them both with a stern look. You argue like people who care about each other's opinions. You laugh like people who genuinely enjoy each other's company. And you look at each other like you're still discovering new things to appreciate. Scarlett felt her cheeks heating up. Was it that obvious? Plus, Nonna Fran added with a sly smile, you've been holding hands under the table for the past 20 minutes, and I don't think either of you has noticed. Scarlett looked down in shock. Sure enough, sometime during the meal, her hand had found Theo's under the table, their fingers intertwined as naturally as breathing. When had that happened? She started to pull her hand away, but Theo's fingers tightened around hers. Don't, he said quietly. It feels right. The table erupted in cheers and applause. That's what I'm talking about, Uncle Sal shouted from behind his camera. Real. Emotion. Genuine connection. This is going to be the best family documentary ever. Sal, put down the camera and eat your food, Aunt Rosa scolded, but she was beaming. As the family conversation moved on to other topics, Uncle Sal's documentary ambitions, Maria's job in Boston, Nonna Fran's plans for redecorating her apartment, Scarlett found herself relaxing into the chaos. This felt like family. Loud, overwhelming, slightly intrusive family, but family nonetheless. The kind of family that showed up when you needed them, that celebrated your successes and defended you against critics. The kind of family she'd always wanted but never quite had. You okay? Theo asked quietly, leaning closer so only she could hear. Just thinking about how nice this is, she admitted. Your family is a lot, but in the best possible way. They like you, he observed. I mean, really like you. Nonna Fran doesn't break out the family photos for just anyone. They like the idea of me, Scarlett corrected. They like that you're finally dating someone. No, Theo shook his head. Trust me, they've met other women I've dated. They were polite, but never invested. This is different. Scarlett studied his face, looking for signs that he was just being kind, but his expression was serious. Different how? Different like Uncle Sal has never filmed anyone else eating lasagna. Different like Nonna Fran gave you her mother's bracelet. Different like they're already planning Sunday dinners and holiday visits. The weight of that settled over her like a warm blanket, and a heavy responsibility all at once. Theo, she said carefully, what happens when we have to tell them the truth? He was quiet for a long moment, absently rubbing his thumb over her knuckles. I don't know, he admitted finally. A week ago, I thought I had my whole life figured out. Work, goals, 5-year plans, and then you crashed into my apartment, literally. And everything got complicated. Complicated how? Complicated like I'm starting to think maybe My 5-year plans were missing something important. Before Scarlett could ask what he meant, Nonna Fran was standing up, tapping her wine glass with a fork. "Attention, familia," she announced. "I have an announcement." The table quieted down, all eyes turning to the family matriarch. As you all know, next weekend is the annual Morrison family reunion at the lake house in the Hamptons. Scarlett felt Theo tense beside her. "Nonna," he said carefully, "I'm not sure Scarlett is ready for—" "Nonsense! She's family now." "Which means," Nonna Fran beamed at Scarlett, "you'll be staying in the family cabin with Theodore. 3 days of swimming, cooking, family games, and getting to meet everyone who couldn't make it to lunch today." "Everyone?" Scarlett asked weakly. "The whole family, all 47 of us." 47 relatives. 3 days, sharing a cabin with Theo. Scarlett looked at Theo, who looked back at her with an expression that clearly said, "I'm sorry, but we're in too deep to back out now." "That sounds—" she began, then stopped. What did it sound like? Terrifying? Overwhelming? Like the kind of weekend that could either cement their fake relationship or expose it completely? "That sounds wonderful," she heard herself saying. "I can't wait." And the truly terrifying part was that she actually meant it. The Morrison family lake house was not, as Scarlett had naively imagined, a cozy little cabin by the water. It was a sprawling compound that looked like someone had taken a luxury resort and decided it needed more Italian flags and significantly louder relatives. "Welcome to Casa Chaos," Theo said as their car pulled up the gravel driveway, revealing a main house that could have housed a small village, 3 guest cottages, a boathouse that was bigger than Scarlett's apartment, and enough people milling around the property to populate a decent-sized wedding reception. "How many people did you say were coming?" Scarlett asked, watching a group of children chase each other around a fountain while several adults gestured wildly in what appeared to be a heated discussion about proper barbecue techniques. 47 at last count, but that was before Cousin Paolo decided to bring his new girlfriend and her twin sister. Theo grabbed their bags from the trunk with the resigned expression of someone walking toward his own execution. "Oh, and Uncle Sal apparently invited his entire documentary film crew." "His what now?" "3 guys with professional cameras, who are going to follow us around all weekend, capturing the authentic romance for his family documentary project." As if summoned by their conversation, Uncle Sal appeared beside their car with a camera operator in tow. "Theodore, Scarlett, perfect timing. We're getting beautiful golden hour lighting. Walk toward the house again, but this time hold hands and look deeply into each other's eyes." "Uncle Sal," Theo protested, "we just got here. Can we at least get inside before—" "Romance waits for no one," Sal declared, directing his camera operator to circle them like a nature documentary filmmaker stalking wildlife. "This is the moment when the young lovers arrive at the family sanctuary. The symbolism, the anticipation, the—" "Sal, let them breathe." Nonna Fran's voice boomed across the property as she emerged from the main house, wearing what appeared to be a caftan covered in sequins and attitude. "They're not zoo animals." "But Francesca, the lighting—" "The lighting will still be there after they've had 5 minutes to settle in." She swept Scarlett into another one of her signature hurricane hugs. "Sweetheart, you look beautiful. A little pale, though. Are you eating enough? Are you sleeping? Is Theodore treating you right?" "I'm fine, Nonna Fran," Scarlett managed, though she wasn't entirely sure that was true. She'd spent the entire 2-hour drive from the city trying to figure out how they were going to survive 3 days of intensive family scrutiny, especially with professional cameras documenting their every move. "Good. Now come. Let me show you to your cabin. We put you in Rosa's cottage. It's the most romantic one, right on the water, with a beautiful view of the sunset." "Our cabin?" Scarlett felt a jolt of panic. "As in, one cabin? For both of us? Together?" "Of course together. You're dating. Where else would you stay?" Scarlett looked at Theo, who had gone slightly green around the edges. "Actually, Nonna," he said carefully, "Scarlett and I haven't been— that is, we usually don't—" "Don't what?" Nonna Fran's eyes narrowed with the laser focus of a woman who had not raised 5 children without developing an excellent radar for evasion. "Don't share bedrooms yet," Scarlett finished quickly. "We're taking things slowly, remember? Old-fashioned, values and all that." Nonna Fran studied them both for a long moment, and Scarlett could practically see the wheels turning in her head. "Old-fashioned values," she repeated slowly. "Very old-fashioned," Theo confirmed, probably a little too enthusiastically. "I see." Nonna Fran's expression was unreadable. "Well then, I suppose we'll have to get creative with the sleeping arrangements." Before either of them could ask what that meant, they were swept into the main house by a tide of Morrison relatives, each one apparently more excited than the last to meet Theodore's mysterious girlfriend. The next hour passed in a blur of introductions, cheek kisses, and increasingly personal questions from family members whose names Scarlett had no hope of remembering. There was Cousin Bianca, who worked as a wedding planner, and immediately began discussing venue options for next summer. There was Great Aunt Carmela, who insisted on reading Scarlett's palm and declared she could see at least 3 bambinos in your future. There was Cousin Joey, who cornered Theo for 20 minutes demanding to know his intentions, while Uncle Sal filmed the entire conversation for dramatic tension. There was also Cousin Lucia, a psychology professor who kept asking probing questions about their relationship dynamics while taking notes in a small journal. And Cousin Vincent, a divorce attorney who seemed particularly interested in their long-term compatibility assessment. And Great-Uncle Tony, who had apparently appointed himself the family's unofficial relationship therapist and wanted to conduct what he called couples counseling sessions by the lake. "This family takes dating very seriously," Scarlett whispered to Theo during a brief moment when they'd managed to escape to the kitchen for water. "You should see what they do when someone actually gets engaged," he whispered back. Cousin Maria had 17 engagement parties across 3 states. "You'd 17? One for each branch of the family tree. We're very thorough when it comes to celebrations." By the time they were finally shown to Rosa's cottage, Scarlett felt like she'd run a marathon through a very enthusiastic obstacle course. "Okay," she said, setting down her suitcase and looking around the cabin's main room. "This isn't too bad. It's bigger than I expected. Where's the second bedroom?" Theo, who had been examining the cabin's layout with the grim expression of someone solving a particularly challenging puzzle, turned to her with bad news written all over his face. "There is no second bedroom." "What do you mean there's no second bedroom? It's a cabin. Cabins have multiple bedrooms." "This cabin," Theo said, pointing toward a set of French doors, "has 1 bedroom with 1 very large, very romantic king-sized bed covered in rose petals, and 1 living room with a couch that's approximately 5 feet long." Scarlett peeked through the French doors and immediately understood the problem. The bedroom was clearly designed for romance, complete with candles, more rose petals than a Valentine's Day parade, what appeared to be a bottle of champagne chilling in an ice bucket, and a small card propped against the pillows that read, "For true loves. First night. Welcome to the family. Nonna Fran." "Your family really doesn't do anything halfway, do they?" "Not even a little bit." Theo collapsed into a chair and ran his hands through his hair. "I should have seen this coming. Nonna, Fran's been plotting since the moment she met you." "Plotting what exactly?" "To get us to take this relationship to the next level. She probably thinks that if we spend 3 days in forced romantic proximity, we'll realize we're meant to be together and give her the grandchildren she's been demanding for the past decade." Scarlett felt heat creep up her neck. "Right. Because we're not actually dating," Theo finished, "which makes this significantly more complicated." They stood there for a moment, both staring at the offending bedroom like it might spontaneously grow a second bed if they concentrated. Hard enough. "I can sleep on the couch," Theo said finally. "That couch? You're 6 feet tall. You'll be miserable." "I've slept in worse places." "When?" "College, graduate school. That conference in Tokyo where they put me in a room the size of a closet. That time in college when my roommate's girlfriend basically moved in and I spent 2 weeks sleeping in the computer lab." He shrugged. "I'm adaptable." Scarlett looked at the tiny couch, then at Theo, then back at the couch. The thing barely looked like it could accommodate someone her size, let alone someone of Theo's height. "This is ridiculous. We're adults. We can share a bed without it being weird. Can we?" The question hung in the air between them, loaded with implications neither of them seemed ready to address directly. "It's just sleeping," Scarlett said, though even as she said it she wasn't entirely convinced. "People share beds platonically all the time." "Do they?" "Sure. Friends on vacation, siblings when they were kids, college roommates when someone's boyfriend visited. None of those examples are helping your case. My point is," Scarlett continued determinedly, "we're both mature adults who can handle one weekend of shared sleeping space without making it into a bigger deal than it needs to be." Theo studied her face carefully. "Are you sure about that?" "Absolutely," she said, with far more confidence than she felt. "Besides, what's the alternative? Tell your entire family that we're not ready to share a bed? That'll definitely make them suspicious." "More suspicious," Theo corrected. "Nonna Fran was already giving us weird looks during the whole old-fashioned values conversation. And did you see the way cousin Lucia was taking notes during dinner introductions? I think she's conducting some kind of psychological analysis." A knock on the cottage door interrupted their debate. "Theodore! Scarlett!" Uncle Sal's voice boomed through the door. "Are you decent? We need to film the settling into the love nest sequence." "Love nest?" Scarlett hissed. "Just roll with it," Theo whispered back, then called out, "Give us 5 minutes, Uncle Sal." 5 minutes. Then we're coming in whether you're ready or not. Romance waits for no one." Scarlett looked around the cottage with new eyes, trying to see it the way Uncle Sal's cameras would. Rose petals everywhere, champagne chilling, candles waiting to be lit, a bed that dominated the entire space like a romantic elephant in the room, and fresh flowers arranged artfully on every available surface. "This looks like a honeymoon suite," she realized with growing horror. "Because it basically is. Rosa's cottage is where my parents stayed on their anniversary every year, and where my grandparents renewed their vows, and where Cousin Maria brought her husband for their first anniversary, and where at least 6 other family couples have had what Nonna Fran calls relationship breakthroughs. So basically, this cottage has witnessed the romantic milestones of your entire family. Pretty much. It's like the Morrison family romance headquarters. And now we're supposed to add our fake relationship to that legacy. When you put it like that, it sounds even worse." Another knock, this time more insistent. "Incoming," Uncle Sal announced, and suddenly the cottage was filled with lights, cameras, and enough film equipment to shoot a major motion picture. "Beautiful," Sal declared, surveying the romantic setup. "Absolutely perfect. Scarlett, sit on the bed and look contemplative. Theodore, stand by the window and gaze pensively at the sunset. Paolo, get the lighting on those rose petals. Marco, I want you to capture the champagne in the background. It tells a story." "Uncle Sal," Theo protested, "this is a little intrusive." "Intrusive? This is cinema. This is the moment when our young lovers retreat to their private sanctuary to explore the depths of their connection. This is where passion meets destiny." "We're just unpacking," Scarlett said weakly, but she found herself sitting on the edge of the bed anyway, trying to look natural while surrounded by camera equipment and what appeared to be a lighting setup that would have been appropriate for a Broadway production. "Unpacking your hearts," Sal announced dramatically. Paolo, get a close-up of their hands. Nothing says true love like intimate hand gestures. Marco, can you get some B-roll of the cottage details? The candles, the flowers, the champagne. We're telling a visual story here. For the next 20 minutes, Uncle Sal directed them through what he called authentic romantic moments, looking out the window together, sharing champagne, even though it was barely 5 o'clock, having what he described as meaningful conversation about your future together, and walking around the cottage while he provided a running commentary on their natural chemistry and obvious connection. Now, Sal said, positioning them near the French doors to the bedroom, I want you to have a conversation about your relationship goals. Really dig deep. What do you want from each other? What are your dreams, your fears, your deepest desires? Scarlett felt like she was trapped in the world's most awkward reality show crossed with a couple's therapy session. Uncle Sal, Theo tried again, maybe we could do this later. No, the light is perfect right now. Golden hour waits for no one. Sal gestured dramatically at his camera operators. This is the magic hour, the time when truth emerges. So, Scarlett, tell us about your dreams, your plans. When are you going to make beautiful bambinos together? Uncle Sal, Theo's voice cracked slightly. What? It's a natural question. You're young, you're in love, you're staying in the romance. Cabin, the audience will want to know about your family planning, about your wedding plans, about whether you're thinking of moving in together. Scarlett felt like she was being interrogated by the world's most enthusiastic and inappropriate talk show host. We're still discussing our timeline, she managed. Discussing? See, this is good communication, the foundation of a strong marriage. Theodore, what's your timeline? When are you going to propose? Have you thought about ring styles, location, the venue? We could film the proposal. It would be cinema. Actually, the camera operator named Paolo said, lowering his equipment, I think we should probably— No interruptions during genius, Sal declared. This is documentary gold. Now, Scarlett, tell us what you love most about Theodore. And don't hold back. The camera loves passion. The question caught her off guard. After 5 days of fake relationship performance, she'd gotten good at deflecting, at giving answers that sounded real without being too specific. But something about the cottage, about being surrounded by the romantic history of Theo's family, about the way he was looking at her with a mixture of apology and genuine curiosity, made her want to give a real answer. I love, she said slowly, the words coming out more honestly than she'd intended, that he pays attention to details, not just the big, obvious things, but the little stuff that most people miss. Like how he remembers that I don't like ice in my water, or the way he automatically walks on the street side of the sidewalk, or how he listens to what people are really saying, not just the words they're using. The cottage had gone quiet, except for the soft whirring of cameras. And I love, she continued, surprised by how easy it was to keep talking, that he genuinely cares about making things better, not just for himself, but for everyone. His apps aren't just clever technology. They're solutions to real problems that real people have. He sees a world where someone can't read a menu in a foreign country, and he fixes it. He notices that traveling is stressful and confusing, and he builds something to make it easier. That's pretty amazing. She paused, realizing she'd been looking at Theo while she talked, and that he was staring at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. And, she added, her voice getting softer, I love that he's kind even when he doesn't have to be. When I was drunk and confused and definitely not his problem, he could have just called security or thrown me out. Instead, he made sure I was safe. That says something about who he is as a person. Theo was staring at her with an expression that was part surprise, part something that looked like wonder. Theodore? Uncle Sal prompted. Your turn. What do you love about Scarlett? And remember, this is for posterity. This will be part of your family legacy. Theo was quiet for a long moment, and Scarlett wondered if he was going to deflect, give some safe, generic answer that would satisfy the cameras without revealing anything real. "I love," he said finally, his voice softer than usual, "that she makes everything more interesting. Before I met her, I had my life organized into neat little compartments. Work, family, goals, 5-year plans. Everything had a place and a purpose. And then she literally crashed into my apartment and suddenly nothing fit into the old categories anymore." He paused, running a hand through his hair. "She argues with me about dishwasher loading techniques and somehow makes it fun. She gets genuinely excited about apps that help people navigate foreign menus, like it's the coolest thing she's ever heard. She handles my crazy family like she's been part of it for years instead of days. She's brave enough to fake a relationship, to help someone she barely knows, and honest enough to feel guilty about the lying." Scarlett felt her chest tighten with something that might have been panic, or might have been something else entirely. "And," Theo continued, looking directly at her now, "she makes me want to be the kind of person who deserves all the generous things she sees in me. She makes me want to be better than I am." The cottage was dead silent except for the sound of Uncle Sal sniffling behind his camera. "And," Theo added, his voice even quieter, "she laughs at my jokes even when they're terrible, and she's not afraid to tell me when I'm being ridiculous, and when she smiles, really smiles, not the polite smile she gives to strangers. It's like someone turned on extra lights in the room." "Cut!" Uncle Sal announced dramatically, his voice thick with emotion. "That's a wrap. This is beautiful. This is poetry. This is going to win awards. Paolo, tell me you got all of that. Marco, please tell me the audio was clean." "We got it. Sal?" Paolo confirmed, looking slightly overwhelmed himself. "This is cinema," Sal declared, wiping his eyes with a handkerchief that appeared to have little hearts embroidered on it. "This is what love looks like. Real, authentic, unscripted love. My documentary is going to be legendary." As the film crew packed up their equipment and headed back to the main house for dinner, chattering excitedly about lighting and sound, quality and authentic romantic moments, Scarlett and Theo were left alone in the cottage, surrounded by rose petals and the weight of everything they'd just said to each other. The silence stretched between them, heavy with implications and possibilities, and the sudden realization that somewhere in the middle of Uncle Sal's enthusiastic documentary project, they'd stopped acting. "So," Scarlett said finally when the silence had stretched long enough to become uncomfortable. "So?" Theo echoed. "That was honest?" "I was going to say terrifying, but honest works too." Theo sat down on the bed beside her, careful to maintain a respectable distance despite the fact that they were supposedly a couple who would be sharing this space for the next 3 nights. "Did you mean it?" he asked quietly. "What you said about the details and making things better?" Scarlett considered lying, giving some safe answer that would let them both pretend the last 10 minutes hadn't happened. But sitting in this cottage, surrounded by the romantic history of his family, after 5 days of pretending to be something she wasn't, the truth felt like the only option left. "Yeah," she said quietly. "I meant it." "Did you? About making everything more interesting?" "Yeah, I meant it too. All of it." They sat there for a moment, both staring out the window at the lake, where the sun was beginning to set in exactly the kind of romantic display that Uncle Sal would have insisted on filming if he'd still been there. "Theo," Scarlett said carefully, "what are we doing here?" "I honestly have no idea," he admitted. "A week ago I thought I had everything figured out. I was going to focus on work, maybe date someone appropriate eventually, give Nonna Fran some grandchildren before she turned 80. Simple, straightforward, logical. And now? Now I'm sharing a cottage with someone who thinks my spice rack organization is ridiculous, but somehow makes me want to reorganize my entire life. Anyway," Scarlett felt that flutter in her chest again, the one that had been showing up more and more frequently over the past few days. "Your spice rack organization is ridiculous," she said, trying to lighten the mood before the conversation got too serious for her to handle. "It's alphabetical. It's logical. It's obsessive. Who needs to find oregano that quickly? Someone who values efficiency in all aspects of life. Someone who probably color codes their sock drawer." "I do not color code my sock drawer," Theo protested, then paused. "I organize it by fabric type and frequency of use." "That's worse. It's practical. Cotton socks for everyday wear. In the front, wool socks for winter in the back, athletic socks in a separate section." "You have a system for your socks? It saves time in the morning." "It's insane. Normal people just grab whatever socks are clean." "That's chaos. What if you grab the wrong weight sock for the weather? What if you end up wearing wool socks with summer shoes? Then you survive the minor inconvenience like the rest of humanity." And somehow they were laughing again, the tension breaking like a soap bubble popping in sunshine. "We should probably go to dinner," Theo said eventually, though he made no move to get up. "If we're late, Nonna Fran will send a search party, probably led by Uncle Sal with cameras." "Definitely led by Uncle Sal with cameras, and Cousin Lucia with her psychology notebook, and Great-Uncle Tony with his relationship counseling theories." But neither of them moved to get up, both seemingly content to sit there as the sun painted the lake in shades of gold and pink. "Scarlett," Theo said quietly, "can I ask you something?" "Sure. When this weekend is over, when we go back to the city and figure out how to end this fake relationship without breaking Nonna Fran's heart, what happens to us?" It was the question she'd been avoiding thinking about, the one that made her stomach twist with something that felt suspiciously like loss. "I don't know," she admitted. "What do you want to happen?" "I want," he said slowly, like he was still figuring out the words as he spoke them, "to find out what it would be like if we stopped pretending." Scarlett turned to look at him, fully, and found him watching her with an expression that was hopeful and nervous and completely genuine. "Stopped pretending that this is fake?" she asked. "Stopped pretending that I haven't been thinking about kissing you for real since yesterday. Stopped pretending that I don't look forward to seeing you every morning. Stopped pretending that the idea of going back to my old life, where everything was organized and predictable and didn't include you arguing with me about proper dishwasher technique, doesn't make me feel like I'm missing something important." Scarlett's heart was beating so fast she was sure he could hear it. "And started what?" "Started dating for real. Started seeing where this goes when we're not performing for cameras or convincing families or trying to manage press conferences. Started finding out if what we have here," he gestured around the cottage, "is real or just really good acting." Scarlett looked at him. Really looked at him. His hair was messed up from running his hands through it. His shirt was wrinkled from the long day of travel and family interactions, and he had that slightly vulnerable expression that appeared whenever he talked about something that mattered to him. He looked like someone she could fall in love with. He looked like someone she might already be falling in love with. "There's just one problem," she said. "What?" "I don't think it's acting anymore." The smile that spread across Theo's face was like sunrise after a long night, warm and bright and full of possibility. "Good," he said, reaching for her hand, "because I was getting really tired of pretending I didn't want to do this." And then he kissed her, soft and sweet, and nothing like the awkward performance they'd put on for his mother in the kitchen. This kiss tasted like possibility and promise, and the kind of future that couldn't be organized into a 5-year plan. When they finally broke apart, Scarlett realized that somewhere in the past 5 days, between press conferences and family dinners and Uncle Sal's documentary cameras, she'd stopped pretending too. "So," she said, a little breathless, "I guess we should probably tell your family that our relationship isn't fake after all." "Actually," Theo said, grinning, "I'm pretty sure Nonna Fran figured that out before we did." "What do you mean?" "I mean, there was no mix-up with the sleeping arrangements. She put us in the romance cabin on purpose, knowing we'd have to share a bed, knowing Uncle Sal would film us being all honest and vulnerable, knowing that sooner or later we'd stop lying to everyone else and start being honest with ourselves. Scarlett stared at him. She orchestrated this whole thing? She's been orchestrating this whole thing since the moment she met you. The shopping trip, the press conference, the family lunch, this weekend. It's all been one elaborate matchmaking scheme. But we were already fake dating. Why would she need to? Scarlett stopped, understanding dawning. She knew. She knew it was fake from the beginning. She's 72 years old and has been managing Morrison family drama for decades. Did you really think a woman who raised 5 children and ran a successful restaurant would be fooled by 2 people who couldn't even get their story straight about how long they'd been dating? Scarlett thought back to all of Nona Fran's knowing looks, her strategic interventions, her insistence on putting them in situations that forced them to be honest with each other. She played us. She helped us, Theo corrected. She saw something we were too scared or stubborn to see ourselves. That we actually like each other? That we actually like each other enough to stop hiding behind fake relationships and start building a real one. A loud knock on the cottage door interrupted them, followed by what sounded like multiple voices. "Theodore! Scarlett!" Uncle Sal's voice boomed across the property. "Dinner! And bring the cameras! We're filming the family feast sequence." Also," came Nona Fran's voice, "Cousin Lucia wants to interview you about your relationship dynamics for her research. And Great Uncle Tony has some couples counseling exercises he wants you to try," added another voice that might have been Cousin Maria. "And I brought my guitar," called someone else. "We're going to serenade the lovebirds." They looked at each other and started laughing. "Ready to tell them the truth?" Theo asked, standing up and offering her his hand. "Which truth? That we were faking it? Or that we're not faking it anymore? How about we just tell them we're together and let them figure out the details?" Scarlett took his hand, feeling the now familiar electric jolt at the contact. "Deal, but I'm keeping the bracelet until this is official. What's official? I'll know it when I see it." As they walked hand in hand toward the main house, where the Morrison family was undoubtedly preparing to subject them to another evening of enthusiastic interrogation and documentary filming, Scarlett realized that somewhere in the chaos of fake relationships and press conferences and family scheming, she'd found something she hadn't been looking for. She'd found someone who made her want to stop pretending to be someone else and start being the best version of herself. And judging by the way Theo squeezed her hand as they approached the house full of their loud, loving, slightly crazy extended family, he'd found the same thing. The main house was even more chaotic than usual when they entered. Uncle Sal had apparently set up a full dinner filming operation, complete with multiple camera angles and what looked like a catering setup to ensure optimal food presentation. Cousin Lucia had claimed a corner table with her notebook and was interviewing various family members about their observations regarding Theodore and Scarlett's relationship development. Your Great Uncle Tony had set up what he called a couples consultation station near the fireplace, complete with charts about communication styles and love languages. "There they are," Nona Fran announced as they walked in. "Our beautiful couple. How was your time in Rosa's cottage? Did you enjoy the champagne, the rose petals, the romantic atmosphere?" "It was," Scarlett began, then looked at Theo. They'd agreed to just tell the family they were together, but sitting here surrounded by all these people who had invested so much energy in their relationship, the magnitude of what they were about to reveal hit her. "It was perfect," Theo finished, squeezing her hand. "Actually, we have something to tell everyone." The entire room went quiet. Uncle Sal frantically signaled his camera operators to start rolling. Cousin Lucia poised her pen over her notebook. Great Uncle Tony abandoned his charts and leaned forward expectantly. "We—" Theo looked at Scarlett, who nodded encouragingly. We wanted you all to know that this relationship, what Scarlett and I have, it's real." "Of course it's real," Aunt Rosa called out. "We could see that from day one." "No, I mean—" Theo paused, trying to find the right words. "It started out as something else. A favor, really. But somewhere along the way it became real. We became real." Ryden, Nonna Fran stood up slowly, her eyes moving between Theo and Scarlett with an expression that was part knowing smile, part vindication. "Are you telling us," she said carefully, "that when you first met, you weren't actually dating?" Scarlett felt her cheeks burn. "Not exactly. I mean, we'd just met, and there were circumstances, and we thought it would be easier to pretend." "To pretend you were together?" Cousin Lucia asked, her pen moving rapidly across her notebook. "Fascinating. A fake relationship that evolved into genuine attachment. This is excellent data." "But now it's real?" Uncle Sal asked from behind his camera. "The love is real? The connection is authentic? Because if so, this is the best plot twist. This is better than any romantic comedy ever made." "Yes," Theo said firmly. "Now it's real." The room erupted in cheers, applause, and what sounded like someone playing a victory song on a guitar. "I knew it!" Nonna Fran declared triumphantly. "I knew from the moment I met you that you were perfect for each other. Theodore, you've been looking for someone who would shake up your organized little world, and Scarlett, you needed someone who would appreciate your adventurous spirit." "You knew?" Scarlett asked. "Sweetheart, I've been managing Morrison family romance for 50 years. You think I can't tell the difference between real chemistry and good acting?" Nonna Fran laughed. "You two were so busy trying to convince everyone else you were in love that you forgot to notice you actually were. Plus," added Cousin Maria, "real couples argue about dishwasher loading techniques. Fake couples stick to safe topics. And real couples hold hands without realizing they're doing it," observed Aunt Rosa. "And real couples look at each other like they're constantly discovering new things to appreciate," added Great Uncle Tony. "Which you've been doing since day one." "So you all knew?" Theo asked, looking around the room at his family's satisfied faces. "We suspected," Nonna Fran admitted. "But we also knew that sometimes people need a little help figuring out what they really want." "Help?" Scarlett asked suspiciously. "The shopping trip to build your confidence. The press conference to make you work as a team. The family lunch to see how you fit together. And this weekend—" Nonna Fran gestured around the cottage. "Sometimes people need to be in the right place at the right time to stop being afraid of what they're feeling." "You manipulated us," Theo said, but he was smiling. "I gave you opportunities," Nonna Fran corrected. "What you did with those opportunities was entirely up to you." "This is beautiful," Uncle Sal announced, his camera still rolling. "This is the perfect ending. Love conquers all. Truth prevails. Family wisdom guides young hearts to their destiny." "Uncle Sal," Scarlett laughed, "you're being a little dramatic." "Dramatic? This is reality. This is life. This is going to be the greatest family documentary ever created." As the evening progressed, with dinner and toasts and Uncle Sal filming what he called the celebration of authentic love, Scarlett found herself thinking about how strange life could be. A week ago, she'd been a broke graphic designer with a tendency to make questionable decisions when she'd had too much champagne. Now she was sitting at a dinner table with 47 members of the Morrison family, wearing a borrowed antique bracelet, holding hands with a man who organized his socks by fabric type, and somehow feeling like she'd found exactly where she belonged. "By the way," she said to Theo as they finally headed back to Rosa's cottage later that evening, "I'm still not moving in with you just because we're dating for real now." Why not?" "Because you organize your books by publication date instead of author name. That's a deal breaker." "It's chronological. It shows the evolution of literary themes." "It's insane. How do you find anything?" "I have a system." "Your system is terrible." "Shh." And as they walked into their cottage, still arguing about proper book organization, while Uncle Sal filmed their every move from a respectful distance, and Nonna Fran watched with the satisfied expression of a woman whose plan had worked perfectly. Scarlett realized that the arguing, the laughing, the feeling of being part of something bigger than herself, this was what real love actually looked like. Messy, chaotic, absolutely nothing like she'd planned, and completely perfect. "One more thing," Theo said as they reached the cottage door, pulling her to a stop before they went inside. "What?" "About the bed situation." Scarlett felt her cheeks warm. In all the excitement of confessing their real feelings and dealing with the family celebration, they'd somehow managed to avoid addressing the elephant in the room. Or, rather, the king-sized bed covered in rose petals in the cottage. "Right, that. We don't have to. I mean, just because we're really together now doesn't mean we have to rush into anything. I can still sleep on the couch if you're more comfortable." "Theo." "What? Or we could ask Nonna Fran if there's another room available, though I doubt it with 47 relatives and Uncle Sal's film crew taking up every available space." "Theo." "Or I could sleep in the main house, though Uncle Sal would probably film me sneaking out and turn it into some kind of dramatic subplot for his documentary." "Theo." He stopped rambling and looked at her. "We're adults. We can share a bed without it being a big deal. Besides," she smiled, "after 5 days of pretending to be together, I think we can handle one night of actually being together. Just sleeping together. Literally sleeping." "Just sleeping," she confirmed, though the way he was looking at her in the moonlight was making her wonder if sleeping would actually be as simple as she was making it sound. They stood there for a moment, both very aware that they were about to cross another line in their rapidly evolving relationship. "Although," Scarlett added, "if you snore like a lumberjack or steal all the covers, I'm putting you on the couch regardless of how romantic this cottage is supposed to be." "I don't snore." "We'll see about that." As they finally went inside and began the awkward dance of getting ready for bed, Theo gallantly offering her the bathroom first, both of them trying not to acknowledge the romantic setup that Nonna Fran had clearly spent considerable time arranging, Scarlett realized that despite all the chaos and confusion of the past week, she felt oddly calm. Maybe it was because they'd finally stopped pretending. Maybe it was because the Morrison family had basically adopted her as one of their own. Maybe it was because Uncle Sal's documentary cameras had forced them to be honest about feelings they'd been hiding from themselves. Or maybe it was because, for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. "Scarlett?" Theo called from the other side of the bathroom door as she brushed her teeth. "Umph?" she mumbled around her toothbrush. "Thank you." She spit out the toothpaste and opened the door. "For what?" "For crashing into my apartment. For agreeing to this crazy, fake relationship scheme. For charming my entire family. For making me realize that maybe having everything organized and planned isn't as important as having someone to be disorganized and spontaneous with." Scarlett felt that flutter in her chest again, the one that was becoming increasingly familiar, whenever Theo said something unexpectedly sweet. "Thank you for not throwing me out when you found me in your bed," she said. "And for creating an app that saved my life in Paris. And for having a family crazy enough to think this whole scheme was a good idea. They are pretty crazy. The best kind of crazy." As they finally settled into the rose-petal-covered bed, Theo on one side, Scarlett on the other, both maintaining careful distance while being hyper-aware of every movement the other person made, Scarlett realized that this felt right in a way that surprised her. Not just the physical comfort of a real bed instead of her lumpy apartment mattress, but the emotional comfort of being next to someone who knew about her terrible organizational skills, and her irrational fear of butterflies, and her tendency to argue about dishwasher techniques, and who somehow found all of those things endearing instead of annoying. "Theo?" she said quietly into the darkness. "Yeah?" What happens on Monday? When we go back to the real world and you have to run your company and I have to figure out how to explain to my clients why I disappeared for a week to fake date. A billionaire? She felt him shift beside her, turning to face her direction even though they couldn't really see each other in the dark. I don't know, he admitted. I've never done this before. Done what? Dated someone. Dated someone real. Someone who wasn't part of the plan. Someone who makes me want to change the plan entirely. Scarlett turned toward him too, and in the faint moonlight coming through the windows, she could just make out the outline of his face. What would the new plan look like? I have no idea, he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. But I'm thinking it might involve a lot more arguing about proper organizational systems and a lot less predictability. I can work with that. Good, because I'm pretty sure Nonna Fran is already planning our wedding. Our what now? Did you see the way she was looking at us during dinner? And the notes Cousin Lucia was taking? And the fact that Uncle Sal kept talking about the next chapter of the love story? I give it 24 hours before someone starts asking about engagement timelines. Scarlett groaned. We just figured out we actually like each other. We haven't even been on a real date. Want to go on one tomorrow? Here? With 47 relatives and a documentary crew watching our every move? Good point. Maybe we wait until we get back to the city. Where are we going to go? Anywhere we show up together is going to be a circus after that press conference. Theo was quiet for a moment. We could stay in. Order pizza. Argue about whether pineapple belongs on pizza while we figure out what we're doing. You're not one of those people who thinks pineapple doesn't belong on pizza, are you? I'm not one of those people who thinks fruit belongs on something that's supposed to be savory. Oh no, this is a deal breaker. I can't date someone with such fundamentally flawed pizza opinions, says the person who probably puts ranch dressing on everything. Ranch dressing is a perfectly acceptable condiment. It's a crutch for people who don't appreciate natural flavors. And somehow they were laughing again, quietly so they wouldn't wake up the entire compound, and Scarlett realized that this, lying in a bed covered with rose petals, arguing about pizza toppings with someone who made her want to be better than she was, this was probably what happiness felt like. Scarlett? Yeah? I'm really glad you got the room numbers mixed up. Me too. And as they finally drifted off to sleep, still maintaining their careful distance but somehow more connected than they'd been during any of their public performances, Scarlett thought about how funny life could be. Sometimes the best things happened when your plans went completely wrong. Sometimes crashing into someone else's life was exactly what you both needed. Sometimes fake could become more real than anything you'd ever planned for. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, you found a family that would scheme and plot and manipulate you into realizing what you really wanted, then celebrate with you when you finally figured it out. The last thing she heard before falling asleep was the distant sound of Uncle Sal's voice drifting across the property. And that's a wrap on day one of the epic Morrison family love story. Tomorrow we film the morning after glow and the breakfast interrogation sequence. Even in her half-asleep state, Scarlett smiled. She was going to have to get used to being part of a family that documented everything. But as Theo's breathing evened out beside her and she felt the comfortable weight of Nonna Fran's antique bracelet on her wrist, she realized she was looking forward to it. All of it. The chaos, the cameras, the family dinners, the arguments about organizational systems, and most of all, the chance to find out what happened when two people stopped pretending and started building something real. It was going to be messy and unpredictable and absolutely nothing like either of them had planned. It was going to be perfect.